Hi, welcome back to the GM Academy Workshop. My name is Jim McClure and I'm going to be your host. And of course today's topic is on the magic circle and what in the world the magic circle is. So we're going to jump right into this. The magic circle is a concept within not just tabletop but within entertainment as a whole, and that is to bring people from outside, from their world, their day-to-day lives, remove them from it and bring it inside the circle of the world that you are presenting. So within tabletop, we are looking at bringing them into the table, into the world, letting them let the rest of the world fade out and sink into that true immersion, into that world that is your own. And it's a really interesting and powerful concept. It goes heavily on, of course, the fantasy type of fun, that immersion really sinking into the game, and it has a great psychological importance. You have to be in the world. The players have to be in the world, truly in the world, inside the circle, if you will, to really get into gameplay, to get into the true role-playing, to get into the story, to allow the rest of the world to go away. You see this used regularly in everything from movie theaters to when the show begins, what do? The lights drop down, they start playing trailers, and then have a big intro production sequence to train your mind to get into that right mindset of we're leaving my world, we're leaving the movie theater, the car that I drove here, all my responsibilities, and we're watching a movie. At a tabletop, it is just as important that we need to teach the players and show them the rest of the world's disappeared. Now we're in tabletop world, we're in Dungeons and Dragons, we're in L5R, we're in Pathfinder, whatever the case may be, we're in my world now as the DM. Let's start acting that way. And that is what we call the magic circle, the boundary between these two. So we're going to look at several different ways that we can establish to the players, consciously and subconsciously, that they have now entered into this new world, they've entered into the magic circle. Okay, so the couple things that we really look for when we're trying to establish this magic circle is, first and foremost, designating a clear point in time when we have gone from the rest of the world, from our social interactions to the hi, how you doing, to now we're playing the tabletop. And there should be a very distinct point right here at this exact moment. We are now no longer doing social activities, we are no longer doing the rest of the challenge of the day, we are playing tabletop. And establishing that point goes a long way. And there's quite a good number of ways to do that. So one of the first things that I do at my table is I have the removal of outside input. And what I mean by that is cell phones go off, TV's off, texting's off, phone calls are off, conversations with the significant others are off. All of that shuts down. We are now playing tabletop. And as we approach the start of it, that's what we do. Everything that's outside influence shuts down. Now, we're going to take a break at the 2-hour mark in between. We've got our time to socialize before and after. But while we are in the game table, we are playing the game and nothing else happens other than gameplay. And as a DM, I just established that. Those are the rules at my table. So then you look at what kind of things you want to do to really establish that we are playing now. Aside from removing all the background clutter, the outside input as I call it, what can you do? Now, one of the things I like doing that is really good is sound and music really resonates within the mind. And of course, being an L5R player, it works with thematics. I have a gong that I ring at the table. Bong! At the start of every single campaign. That is the auditory note that we are going from social, we are all hanging out together, to we are playing a game. It is strong, it's impactful, it makes a statement, people immediately know it's time to play. Now, obviously a gong doesn't work in every situation, but another thing that does is music. Music has that really powerful effect that really sinks into someone's psyche of something has changed, I need to pay attention to this. It erases some of all that extra background clutter. It really draws people in. So playing music right when you're getting ready to start the campaign, at the beginning, or perhaps you play it just during playtime and turn it off when there's not playtime, really goes far to establish this world is different. We are now in a different plane than where we were 30 seconds ago. So playing music is another real great thing. Now, of course, gongs and playing music and all of this is really into the sensation type of fun. And you'll notice a lot of these things are really heavily noted in sensation type of fun, because sensation ties very closely with fantasy and immersion. And one of the things that really blends those two that's really great to sink people in is presenting them a new handout at the beginning of their story. whether it be new maps, whether it be a scroll with information that's presented them from an NPC, something for them to physically touch, physically play with, physically read, physically do something with that gets them engaged. Because it's taking their mindset out of the rest of the day and making their mindset, now we're doing this thing. I'm processing information that's based on events that are going to happen at the table. So presenting them a handout is a great way to do that. The other thing is, if you want to do something as people that necessarily aren't big on sensation, or that doesn't rate high on their 8 kinds of fun, like myself, that is very narrative and very expression, one of the things that helps me is doing a recap of the story. That's how I start my play session. I ring the gong and I go, time for a recap. As a DM, I go, player 1, tell me what's happening. As a player, I love to do this because it gets people talking and thinking about their actions from previous events. And it slowly gets their mind in that headspace, that this is what we're doing now. I'm recapping. My brain is processing events that happened at the table, and suddenly I'm inside the circle. And suddenly everything else doesn't matter as much. Now I'm here. This is what my brain is doing now. And it establishes that inside the circle, outside the circle. One of the other last things I want to present to you is something that I really wish more people would do, and that is give experience points at the beginning of the play session. Take your experience points that you would give them at the end of the last play session, give it to them at the beginning of this play session. Then they will have experience points to upgrade their characters. Give any loot at the end. Upgrade their characters. It's getting them thinking about these different things that are going to happen within their character. And that's how you can engage the challenge players. That's how you can engage so many different types of tabletop players of now they are building their character. They are doing something with their character sheet at the beginning, and now they're going to get to immediately use this. This also has the added side benefit of it helps with retention and getting people back to your table, because if they don't get their experience until they show up for the next play session, it gives them that extra bit of encouragement to come here, do something, you're going to get something, it's going to happen. So giving experience points is another wonderful way to get them inside that circle, get them thinking about doing things in a tabletop way. So that is a bunch of different ideas for you of ways that you can handle sort of establishing the magic circle. But there's one more thing that is really important to understand about doing this, and that is consistency. Players and everyone, players, DMs, everyone has to be trained to do this. It is not something that comes naturally to very many people. Sure, there's a few true role players that can just dive right into it, but myself included, it takes time and it takes an established routine to get people into the magic circle. You have to train them to do it. It's a process, and the number one way, the number one tip, whatever you're going to use to establish it, it's be consistent in that use. The game always starts the same way. The game always ends the same way, with the use of these auditory clues, the use of these visual clues, the use of these textile clues. You get them something that is consistent every single time, so they know when I see this, when I hear this, when I touch this, the game has begun. And they will have strong reactions, both consciously and subconsciously, to getting in the right mindset of play, because something has triggered it. So this is naturally easier for experienced players that have trained, they're used to getting in this mindset. Newer players have a long road ahead of them to feel comfortable with this. So that's another thing to understand. There's going to be a difference between experienced players and novice players who aren't used to getting into this headspace. And even with some of the experienced players, if they haven't been presented a consistent time, some of them can get real hard to get into the magic circle, as we're calling it. So the key to doing all of this is routine. Presenting the person, the player, the GM, everyone with the exact same clues that the game has now begun. And that's how we establish our magic circle. That's how we establish what is in-game from what is out of game. So, below, post all of your wonderful ideas that you have or ways that you have established your magic circle in the game. And of course, remember, please subscribe to the GM Academy workshops to get all of our latest information. I've been Jim McClure, this has been the Magic Circle, and I will see you all at the table.